Okay, let's go through the first side of this practice test. But keep in mind now that what you're going to have to do is not only do the drawings and do the calculations, I'm going to ask you to explain in words what some of these numbers mean. And so pay attention to the study guide that I gave you and practice thinking about and explaining these things. Make sure you understand it. Otherwise, there's not much point in going through this kind of exercise unless you can explain what everything means. So let me go through here and calculate these things, and then we'll see what they mean. So we have a demand curve, P equals 19 minus Q, and a supply curve, 1 plus 2Q. So let me draw the y-intercept for the demand curve here is 19. And it's got a slope of down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. So that's the same as down 1 over 19. Now let me adjust this picture here a little bit. Okay, so we have our demand curve. Our supply curve, P equals 1 plus 2Q, and so the y-intercept is 1, and it's got a slope of 2. So up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and we could keep doing that, or we could plug in some points and do it that way. So we have our supply and our demand curves, and it's always good to practice to label these things. So let me put an S there and a D here. And let's start doing our calculations. So the equilibrium price here looks to be $13, and the equilibrium quantity looks to be 6. So let me fill in here. Total revenue is 6 times 13. So I'm getting $78, price times quantity. Consumer surplus is the area below the demand curve and above the price people are paying. So let me draw that little triangle there in this case. Let's see. All right, and so let me color that in with, I'll make that yellow, say. There we go. And make that a little transparent so we can kind of see behind it. Okay, so that's yellow. I should have drawn the total revenue here, so let me go ahead and do that. The total revenue is really a rectangle here. Price times quantity. All right, and let me fill that in here. Maybe I'll make that red. Okay, so now we can see through that red a little bit. And now let me highlight in the producer surplus. So we have our consumer surplus. Let me highlight everything and then we'll come back to calculations. Producer surplus, remember the area under the supply curve is the variable costs. So let me label that, variable costs. And then up here is the producer surplus. And so let me color in the producer surplus, and let's see if I put yellow up on top of it, it should make it orange. So let's see. And oops. There we go. And of course, let me label the consumer surplus up here. Okay, so now let's calculate these things. Now this consumer surplus is easy. It's a triangle. 1/2 times 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1/2 times 6 times 6 is going to be 18. Producer surplus, 1/2 times, that's 6 there, between 0 and 6, and then go from 13 down to 1 as a height of 12. 1/2 times 6 times 12 should be 36. Total benefit is the total area under the demand curve here. So everything under there. You can get it by total revenue plus consumer surplus. That's not what it means, but that's a way to calculate it. So total benefit you could get by 78 plus 18, 96. So remember, that's the most someone would be willing to pay to get 6 units of this product. Total surplus, add the consumer surplus plus the producer surplus, and we're going to get something like 54 here. And variable cost, you can take the total revenue and subtract off the producer surplus if you want to get the variable cost, and that looks like it's going to be $42. So, total revenue of 78, I would explain, is if you sell 6 things at $13 each, you're going to put $78 in the cash register at the end of the day. But then that 78, you're going to have to pay $42 for labor and materials costs, things that cost more when you produce more units, $42, and then you're going to have $36 left over for producer surplus, which means that's money you have left over to pay your fixed costs like rent. And then if you pay your rent with that $36 and you still have some money left over, then you're going to have a profit. So producer surplus is used to pay fixed costs and profit. Total benefit of 96 is the most consumers would be willing to pay for 6 units of this product. They have to pay 78. So 96 is what they were willing to pay, 78 is what they had to pay. The difference is $18. That's the consumer surplus. It's just the difference between what someone's willing to pay and what they have to pay. So that's the Chapter 6 kind of analysis. Now, one example in Chapter 7 is doing a price ceiling. So now we assume there's a price ceiling. Now we have to start by drawing our demand and supply curves again. So let me do that. All right, and they intersect at the same place, but now we can't have a price of $13. We're putting in a price ceiling of $7. So let me I always draw a line straight across at $7 there. Let me make that, say, blue. Let me try to make sure we can actually see that. Move it up a little bit there. Okay, so we have a price ceiling of $7. What's going to happen? Well, look at the demand curve at $7. The quantity people want to buy is going to be 12, but the quantity people want to sell, supply, is only going to be 3. So we can fill in these items over here. The price is going to be 7 because of the price ceiling. The quantity demanded goes up to 12. The quantity supplied goes down to 3. Total revenue, though, is going to be based on the 3, not the 12. You're only going to sell 3 units. So one thing I do in this case to help focus my attention, since I know there's only going to be 3 units out there for sale, it's the 3 that's important. So again, one thing I do is I draw a little line here at the 3 units. And let's see, we'll make that maybe green. Now, why do I draw that there? Well, because all the action, everything interesting that we're going to talk about is going to happen over between 0 and 3 units. You're not selling the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th unit. So we're going to focus our attention on the left here. So, given that that's true, what's the total revenue going to be? Well, we're selling 3 units for how much? 7 each. So the total revenue is going to be 21. Whoops. What just happened? Hold on. Sorry about that. I hit some key and the picture went wild there. So So we were talking about how the quantity supplied is 3, the price is 7. So that's going to be the thing that means the total revenue will be 21. And where is that total revenue? Well, that total revenue is price times quantity. It's this 3 times 7 right down here. And we'll color it red like we did before. And since we know that the total area under the demand curve is the most somebody'd be willing to pay, that's where we get the total benefit from, it follows that the consumer surplus, it's always below the demand curve but above the price that they pay. It's the difference between demand, willingness to pay, and price, have to pay. So I colored that yellow up there, so let me use the same color here this time. So it's all that. So it's made up of a triangle and a rectangle there. And let me select that and make that yellow. Okay. And as always, the variable cost is below the supply curve, so that leaves the producer surplus to be below the price the producer gets and above the supply curve. So let me draw that triangle here. And then after we get everything drawn and labeled, we will do some calculations. Okay, so here we have consumer surplus, here we have producer surplus, here we have variable costs, and total revenue is the rectangle, and total benefit is adding up all the area under there. So let's do our calculations. Producer surplus, what we're going to have to do here is divide this yellow into 2 pieces, and we're going to divide it right there. Calculate the area of the triangle part, add it to the rectangle part there. So this triangle is 1/2 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Half of that is 450. So we're going to have 450 for that part. Add it to this part of consumer surplus, which is 3 times. This is going between 7 and 16. So between 7 and 16 is 9. So this is a base of 3, a height of 9. 3 times 9 is 27. So we're going to add those two. 27 plus 450, 3150 is our consumer surplus. Producer surplus is just a triangle. 1/2 times 3 times from 7 to 1 is 6. So 1/2 times 3 times 6. 3 times 6 is 18. Half of that is 9. Total benefit, just add up all the area under the demand curve any way you want. Total revenue plus consumer surplus is an easy way. So 21 plus 3150, 5250 is one way to get that. All right, now total surplus is consumer surplus plus producer surplus. 3150 plus 9 would be $40.50. And then variable cost is the red down here. Easiest way to get it is total revenue 21 minus the producer surplus of 9 gives us $12. Now the deadweight loss. When we're looking at the deadweight loss, what we want to do is say, look, up here, all the orange and the yellow, that whole big shape was producer and consumer surplus. Now let me draw that shape just so we can really focus on exactly what it is we're doing. And I'm going to give it a different color. Let me make it, say this blue here. So all that is the total surplus, consumer plus producer surplus. Now let me pick it up. Now we could calculate that blue as the area of a triangle, 1/2 times base times height. No trouble to doing that. Now let's move the blue down here. We'll see what happened to that blue. That's why I love drawing programs like this, because you can actually move things. This blue used to be the total size of the total surplus. The surplus going to the consumers and the producers. Let's put it on top of there. What happened? Well, we've still got some of that that's consumer surplus and producer surplus, but then there's this little blue area here that nobody gets as surplus anymore. That's the deadweight loss. So that's why that little part over there is a way to calculate the deadweight loss. Now there's two ways to do it. One is just to compare total surplus before, 54, total surplus now, 40.50. What's the difference? $13.50. 54 right there minus 40.50, $13.50. There's another way to do it. We can just calculate the area of that little triangle there. So let's do that. Let me draw the triangle as carefully as I can here. And let's see, I'll make it that purple color. So the area of any triangle, 1/2 base times height. Now in this case, let me make it see-through. I think about this bottom part as the base, and then this distance as the height. So if we think about it that way, the base is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's the distance between 7 and 16. And the height is 1, 2, 3. The distance between the 3 and the 6 units. So 1/2 times 9 times 3. 3 times 9 is 27. Half of that, the same 1350 that we were talking about before. And that deadweight loss is how much the total surplus went down because something got in the way of achieving this equilibrium point. We were able to get to the equilibrium here. That's where our total consumer and producer surplus is maximized. But because of the price ceiling, we're not able to get to the price and quantity we were before. We lose this purple amount of producer and consumer surplus. So it goes down by 1350. So that's how to compare the original situation to what would happen with a price ceiling. Now, I'll make another video segment where I'll look at the production quota and the tax.